Thank you, Paul. Canadian broadcasters are grappling with the issue of violence on television. The federal government's Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission regulates television, but it doesn't currently have any regulations that specifically deal with violence. ATV's Jonathan Kay joins us now live in Halifax. Jonathan, what are the current guidelines?
Well, as you mentioned, Nancy, neither the CRTC regulations nor the Broadcast Act contain any specific provisions that deal with violence. In extreme cases, the provisions such as the requirement to maintain high standards or to meet the needs of the community could be brought to bear. But at the moment, it's up to individual stations to come up with their own standards. That might not be the case for long.
Violence isn't new to television, and the links between violence on TV and violence in society aren't clearly understood.
Thank you. That covers that one. Let me go back.
But the people responsible for choosing the television shows that come into our homes every day are reacting to the concern.
Do you look at the issue of violence any differently than your predecessors might have a dozen or 15 years ago?
There's no question about that, it's first and foremost in our mind, and more we are concentrating on where we run these particular programs and at what time. Paying particular emphasis as to when children are up and have access to the television. And when you're looking at particular programs, there's sort of an unwritten code at the moment that you try and schedule programs that have any sort of violence in them after 9 o'clock at night.
It's an unwritten code now, but it might not be for long. The CRTC is now considering a proposal from the Canadian Association of Broadcasters for a uniform, voluntary code that would be administered by the Canadian Broadcast Standards Council. But some people think we need laws to stop violent programming altogether.
I think it might be good to have laws to keep them off the air.
It's not just enough for people individually to turn them off?
I just don't think they would do that, because I see a lot of people watching them.
Others, though, say individuals should be able to decide for themselves what's good or bad for them to be watching.
No, I agree with it. Everybody should have their own right to make their own decision, whatever, you know. Because why should you tell one person that they can't watch it and another person can't watch something else? So, except the kids, so then you should make a decision. But otherwise, grown-ups should be able to make their own.
The CRTC has decided to allow broadcasters to attempt to come up with a voluntary code first. That would eliminate gratuitous violence, schedule programs that contain violent scenes later in the day, and add disclaimers to warn viewers what to expect. Media Watch is one of the groups that's lobbying the CRTC.
A lot of people don't have a lot of media literacy. They don't understand how media affects them. And by watching a number of violent programs, that it somehow changes them. And we need more education around what media does to our psyches and does to our souls to understand.
Most of the people we talked to today, Nancy, were concerned about what children have access to on television. And modern technology is providing us with more and more devices that are able to block out certain channels or programs. But none of these devices are foolproof. On the other hand, you have people who carefully monitor what their children watch or don't have children of their own and say they don't want other people deciding what they can or can't watch, or they don't simply want access to the most innocuous of programs. They want to be able to decide for themselves.
All right, interesting report. Thanks, Jonathan. ATV's Jonathan Kay in Halifax. When we